Pues buenos días a todos y a todas y a quienes nos ven a través de la transmisión de YouTube. Quisiera dar unas palabras de introducción para presentarles a las maestras investigadoras que nos estarán acompañando el día de hoy, hablándonos un poco de cómo la narrativa de la imagen es sumamente importante para tratar temas tan conflictivos como el de los refugiados, ¿no? y que se prestan tanto a debate. Henry Cartier-Bresson, famoso fotoperiodista, dijo una vez que la fotografía es en sí mismo, en un mismo instante, el reconocimiento simultáneo de la significación de un hecho y de la organización rigurosa de las formas percibidas visualmente que expresan y significan ese hecho. Verdaderamente las imágenes tienen el poder de contar historias, de capturar momentos y emociones de una manera única, pero el fotoreportaje va más allá de la simple captura de una imagen. Es el arte de transmitir un mensaje, de mostrar la realidad a través de los ojos y la sensibilidad del fotógrafo. A lo largo de la historia, el fotoreportaje ha sido testigo de grandes acontecimientos y ha sido un vehículo para denunciar injusticias y promover el cambio. Ha documentado guerras, crisis humanitarias, movimientos sociales y culturales, mostrando al mundo realidades que a veces preferiríamos ignorar. El poder del fotoreportaje radica en su capacidad de conmovernos, de generar empatía y de despertar la conciencia. Una imagen puede transmitir el sufrimiento de una persona, la esperanza de un pueblo o la belleza de la naturaleza de una manera que las palabras no siempre pueden lograr. Nos invita a reflexionar, a cuestionarnos y a actuar. En la era de la tecnología y las redes sociales, el fotoreportaje se ha vuelto aún mucho más poderoso. Las imágenes pueden ser compartidas instantáneamente y llegar a audiencias globales en cuestiones de segundos. Esto ha amplificado su impacto y ha generado conciencia en el tiempo real sobre temas urgentes. Como dijo la fotógrafa Berenice Abbott, la fotografía o las fotografías ayudan a las personas a ver. Y es que la fotografía tiene una particularidad de poseer un lenguaje que todos podemos decodificar, que todos podemos entender, sin importar nuestro idioma. En el día de hoy, 20 de junio, se celebra el Día Mundial del Refugiado, fecha en la que se rinde homenaje a aquellas personas que se han visto forzadas a salir de sus hogares. Hoy es un día para interiorizar, para empatizar con todas aquellas personas que por múltiples razones dejan su país, su vecindario, muchas de ellas sus familias, con la esperanza puesta en que algún día puedan volver a sus casas y a sus hogares. Como coordinadora de dos carreras que tienen el poder de contar con imágenes nuestra realidad, me parece de suma importancia esta charla que a continuación nos presentan las profesoras Alexandra y Patricia, ya que en una época llena de noticias que dividen, del ruido de la inmediatez, de la moda del morbo y el fake news, entiendo necesario el poder captar imágenes con discursos que derrumben muros, que tiendan la mano, que edifiquen corazones y que nos ayuden a observar el mundo desde la mirada humana de las personas que habitan en él. Les dejo a continuación con nuestras invitadas, con la esperanza de que puedan palpar a través de ellas la importancia de la narrativa en la fotografía como un instrumento edificador. Muchas gracias y que disfruten esta charla.
Hello. Nice to meet you. We are very happy to be here, and thank you many thanks to the organizers for inviting us, as we are very glad to be here and to talk a little bit about the perspective of media narration about refugees in Poland. I know that our country is far away from here, but I think that the problematic of refugees is more or less similar in every country, even if the type of refugees are a little bit different and they are coming probably from different countries and so on. But I think that the topic of migration and refugees is universal. Should I talk a little bit slower than this, or it's okay?
It's the same.
It's okay? Yes? Good. Thank you. Okay, so as you know, we are from Poland, from Wrocław, exactly, from the University of Wrocław. I'm Patricia, and this is Ola. And as it was introduced, we're going to talk a little bit about visual representation of migration in Polish media. And our presentation is divided into two parts. One is related to the migration crisis, which started in 2015, and the other part of our presentation is related to nowadays, actually, migration crisis, because of the war in Ukraine. So we're gonna talk about like two types of refugees, refugees crisis, migration crisis, which Poland faced from 2015. Do you want to add something? No. Okay, so let's start. I just want to mention that maybe you know that today on 20th of June we have the World Refugee Day. So it's the excellent day to talk today about the refugees. Each year on 20th of June, the world celebrates the strength and courage of people who have been forced to flee their home country. We want to talk about visual representation because you know that we live in a world of images, especially you, young people, Generation Z. Images are, I think, more important for you than the text, and more powerful, I think. Media, maybe the traditional media is not something which you are focusing on. Maybe you are focusing more on social media than traditional media, but still, like, the images are important also in traditional and also social media because it works the same way. We're gonna talk, of course, about this too. We have to mention that the freedom, diversity, and ability of news media to enable democracy depend on institutional structure of individual countries' media environment. So I think you can understand that depending on the country, the media reality is a little bit different because the society and politics scene, let's say, is a little bit different. So, as I mentioned, we're going to start from mass migration crisis in 2015, because I just want to add that Poland is, we can say that Poland used to be and is still at some point a little bit culturally homogenic country. So we didn't actually have so many immigrants before. And 2015, it was the year where we started to face migration at the first time in new century, I will say. So it's important to mention that for Polish people, migrants, refugees, this was a group of people who we didn't actually had before, like different culturally, with different cultural background, different language, and different also religions. So for Polish people, it wasn't so easy to accept a new situation. That's why the reaction of media was very quick and very dichotomic. And this is what I want to show you in this presentation, the first stage of the presentation. So here we have like a small report which was done in 2016. So 1 year after migration crisis started, and it was done by Prejudice Research Center. And what the report is saying, just to sum up, because it's quite important what kind of keywords we could find in this report. what associations did Poles have with the word refugee? Of course, war, because Polish people, that they are aware that those people, migrants, refugees, that they are escaping from their country because they are facing problems concerning war. But also asylum, which is quite logical because refugees, they were looking for asylum for a place where they can stay and where they can be safe. But also what we can hear, what we can see here, desperate, that they were desperating like running from their country. But also what we can find here, uncertainty, terrorist, homeless, poverty, Islam, Arab, thief, traitor, and workless and lazy. And we can see that on the basis of those keywords, we can see that on one hand, Polish people, they understood why refugees are coming to our country because they are afraid of their lives. But at the same time, they felt a little bit uncomfortable with this because they didn't know them. Because mostly people who came to Poland in 2015, they were from Chechnya, they were from Georgia, so people, especially from Chechnya, so people, migrants who had like different cultural Islamic background. And because of that, Polish people, that they were afraid, because we are Catholics in Poland. That's why they were worried a little bit about this. And also they had this like typical, you know, media stereotypes in their heads concerning migrants. They were afraid that they are a terrorist, that they were, you know, steal their jobs, that they will do something which is not accepted in Poland, that they don't know how to behave in Poland, and so on. So that's why on the basis of these keywords we have this also dichotomy. At one point we understand why you are here, but at the same time we are afraid of you because we don't know you. This is like the explanation, I will say here. And when we look at Polish media, we can divide Polish media into two types of seeing the world. One is more far right, and the other one is more left concentrated. What does it mean? It means that some of media in Poland, they are more liberal, and some of them, they are more conservative. So this conservative media, they started this narration about refugees from Chechnya, from Syria, also from Belarus. And they focus mostly on how we are different and why Polish people should be afraid of them. Because I think you know that the conservative media, they are trying to keep the national identity, they're trying to stop other cultures coming into country, different behaviors. They don't want to have it in Poland. So that's why we can see this very negative narration about refugees. They sold a way of saying the word in which the refugee was a threat. And information of this type also confirmed the recipients in the stereotypes about others, which already existed in Polish society before on the basis of media coverages. And as you can see, what they did, the far-right media, they wanted to show like a mass of people, because if you see the mass, you are automatically starting to feel a little bit afraid. And on this coverage, we can see a lot of people probably standing on the border of Poland. And what is the claim here? They are invaders, not refugees. So they started to claim that it's not true, that they are running out from their country because they look for a safer place. They started to indicate that those people came here to invade Poland, which was ridiculous, of course, but still they did it. On the other hand, what we can see here, mostly they shone on the coverages of far-right media in Poland. They started to show also only men. So they indicated that only men are standing on the border of Poland and they want to force the border. And of course, they didn't show the other people, you know, women and also kids and families and so on. So they wanted to build the narration in the way Polish people will feel afraid. And this kind of propaganda was also not only shown on the level of images, but also on the level of text. So here we have, this is in Polish, so I know it's not understandable for you, but here we have the translation. They wrote that strong young men, instead of defending their countries, for example, Syria, break through European Union borders, they know their purpose, they march on Vienna and Berlin. So again, on the level of the text, we can see that the Polish right-wing media, they wanted to feel Polish society afraid of refugees. And what is also interesting here, that the Arab category has lost its ethnic character and has become a career of personality traits that come to us, and they are approaching the borders of Europe. They wait on our border as a refugee, which is public discourse symbolize the status of victim, and becoming almost identical with an invader. So they were calling them Arabs, even if it wasn't true. On the other hand, we have this liberal media which were we can say more responsible. They wanted to show refugees a new pulse. So people who are coming here, and we are welcoming them, and we want to accept them. We want to learn a little bit more about them. So you can see, if we see this or this, and then we can see this, we can see how it's different, how those different narrations in media were shown on the basis of media coverages. And here, as I said, Nowi Polacy, it means new Poles, and as you see, we have not a mass of people, but we have a family, young family with kids. We see on the basis of their clothes that they are culturally different, but at the same time, when we see a family or a mass of people, we have like different impression of what we see. So these coverages were more positive, we can say. Those left media, they wanted to build this narration to Polish society, that don't be afraid. We know that you don't know anything about those people, but don't be afraid, because we must accept them. They are people like we. They have their families, they have kids, they're just looking for a place where they can be safe. And what I can say from my experience, because I conducted individual research among refugees in Poland for my PhD thesis, And what the people said during those interviews, that they really just seeking for a place where they can raise their children, where they can have a job, where they can just live normally. And they were aware that they are different on the cultural level. Of course, they were also afraid because they didn't know Polish people, you know, Polish social rules and so on. But at the same time, they were very open to learn something about Polish society. Also what is interesting, what commercial media actually did, that they figure out a way to show Polish society how it is actually to run away from your own country. And they started a TV show which was called Go Back Where You Came From. I know the title is not so positive, but the goal of this TV show was to present like a few refugees who were explaining how actually they escaped from home, that it wasn't easy, that they had to pay a lot of money to get to Poland, to get to Europe, European Union, that they faced a lot of negative approach to them. But at the same time, they were telling that we are happy that we are in Poland, even if we don't know this country. We are happy because we are safe. And also the goal of this TV show was to invite Polish people to this TV show. Three people were against refugees, against accepting refugees in Poland, and three people were positive about it. So they felt that it's necessary as a human to accept another human in your country because they are not safe in their own country. And of course, the goal here was that those who had this negative approach to refugees, after the show, they will, you know, change their mind. They will start to think differently about refugees. On the basis of this TV show, they wanted to educate Polish society about refugees, and it was actually quite nice, nice idea. Then I wanted to show you something from pop culture. It's a meme, memes of Marta Frey. She is a Polish painter, illustrator, activist, co-founder of the Political Critic Club. And memes, of course, in internet, of internet users, they were used very often, and they are still used. In Polish social media to show, to comment the current situation of Polish society and Poland in general. And what we can see here. On the first picture, we can see two old ladies, as you see, and they are talking. One is telling, what are we protesting against today? Why it's important? Because we had a lot of protests concerning many topics in Poland those days, from 2015. We still have a lot of manifestations in Poland concerning political scene mostly. And the other woman is answering against the pill that is Islamizing the country. So this, I know it's not so easy to understand the meme and the joke behind this, but Marta Frey, the author of this meme, she was laughing that people don't really know what they are protesting, why they are protesting, but they are protesting because the other people are protesting. And on the other hand, we have something which was very, very negative. So you can see, I think, even if you don't understand what is written there, you can understand that the author of this meme, he compared dogs, animals, to refugees. Of course, the slogan here, the text here is saying, decide for yourself who to feed better. And this was really, really negative, and this was like unhuman, we can say. But this what you could find also in social media, and of course you know that depending on what you are searching for in social media, the content is giving to you constantly. Of course, in this matter, it works the same. So those who were looking for content concerning refugees in this negative context, they were seeing this kind of memes, and those who were more liberal and who were looking for more liberal content about the refugees, they seen this mostly because at some point people laughed. You don't know who they are, but you are already, negative. So maybe first talk to the people, learn about their culture a little bit. It doesn't matter what kind of skin color they have, what kind of religion they believe. It doesn't matter, because we are all people. And if someone is in a situation where he or she cannot be in his or her country, we have to accept them, we have to help him, because we are people. Just because of that, we should do this.
Okay, so I hope it's okay like this. So let's have a look at the media coverage from what happened the last year and what unfortunately keeps happening. So as you can see, like Ukraine, this orange country, and Poland, the green one. So our country is the first, let's say, safe country from the European Union where the refugees can go, and this is what happened and what keeps happening. So we would like you to have a look at the difference between what Patricia explained about this first narrative concerning this migration crisis in 2015 and what happened last year when our ruling party had a bit different aims and wanted to have a bit different impact on the society. So let me introduce just some numbers to give you a bigger context, maybe. So that's true that, as Patricia explained, generally our country is not very diverse. It's not like here in Dominican Republic that you can see people from different countries. It's more like Polish, Catholics, and that's it. But that's true that in 2014, so when actually Russia attacked Ukraine for the first time, we started to see different people in our country. Not that different, because Ukrainians, they are culturally similar to us. But yes, that's true that there were over 1 million people coming during the first years, mostly to work, mostly men, but not only, some students as well. So we had this time to somehow accept and confront that our country is not monocultural anymore. And of course, last year, as you probably saw in the media, in February 24th, suddenly so many people had to flee from their country, and Poland was like the first stop, of course. And maybe before I show you the exact numbers, it's good to mention that the history between Ukraine and Poland is very complex. Like, there were wars and many, many difficult family stories. So that's true that it also has an impact. It's not like really friends countries, something like this, like good neighbors, more like complicated neighbors, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. And please have a look at this, what happened how many people crossed the Polish border last year? Look, in February, the last week, so many people in only 5 days. In March, 2 million people. So you can imagine how crazy it was if it comes to transportation, places to stay, like these millions of people. We had to somehow find a place for them to stay safely. I don't know, food, medical health, because of course people in different conditions were flying. So it's like elderly people, kids, and so on. So the last year was a really, really huge crisis. Now it's like more under control, I would say. Please have a look at this. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Ah, that's okay. Yes. For the light, which one is this? Ah, 6. Yeah, so of course, because of the war, the men had to stay in Ukraine, but almost every second person, every second refugee from Ukraine is a minor, right? A kid. And you could really see it in our city as well. Even though our city is closer to Germany, there were so many refugees, and you could see women and kids and animals and kids again. So that's really impressive somehow. And these numbers are really huge. So objectively, there was a crisis definitely bigger than the one in 2015 in Poland. But this time, in the media, the refugees were shown a bit differently. Let's have a look at these pictures we have. The propaganda from the ruling media was that this coordination of this crisis was a big success. You can see a fragment from, it's like, again, far-right newspaper, Do Rzeczy. They are saying that, like Poland was great. After the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, no refugee camps were set up at the Polish borders because the Poles spontaneously went after them themselves and took them to their own homes. And that's true. That's true that there was a huge movement of people who just opened their houses and they said, okay, you have no place to stay, this is my room, or I have this flat, you can stay there for free. I have friends, many friends actually, who, they had maybe one extra room and they allowed, I don't know, to 1, 2, 3 people, kids to stay at their places. So that's true that there was, sorry? Sure.
I just want to add that what Ola is showing now. This is the same newspaper who was showing on media coverage this negative image of refugees, but refugees from Syria and other places. But now they changed the narration and they're showing that we are so nice people, friendly, we are accepting refugees. So how it's changed quite quickly.
Yes, that's so true. So again, the same newspaper with the same line can use the same topic differently just to, let's say, serve different aims and different, parties. So you can see, Poland stands with Ukraine. We can see a soldier with a kid smiling. So we have these more positive emotions. And probably you can already see that we don't see a mass, we don't see millions of people, even though there were millions of people. And we remember that from our city, that suddenly the city was collapsed with people because every day there were thousands of people coming by train, by buses. But what you can see here are individuals, not like a wave of people, right? It's this metaphor that is used very often, like with a wave that will cover us, like a tsunami, not this case. And we can see sometimes, of course, the images of bigger groups of people, but usually they were used to show the efficiency of our army, our soldiers. So you can see like some people from the public sector, which again was not really true because our country reacted slowly. And the first day, almost all the help was organized by volunteers, right? Like the state was not that effective. It was like people, I don't know, preparing sandwiches, helping, I don't know, doctors, vets also helping, just going to the train station, going to the border and helping without any coordination from the state. So again, this crisis was used to show how effective the Polish state is. And of course, nowadays we don't only consume like the traditional official media, but also Instagram is so important. And you can see here like two famous actors from Poland, famous in Poland, not internationally. So it was very, very typical that actors would also invite some refugees to their houses. As you can see, we can see this actor with his Ukrainian family at home, and this actress, she wrote on the mirror just the words like strength for Ukraine, right? She was preparing her house to have people from Ukraine there. So definitely it had also a big impact on the society, because when you see that your favorite actor is open to refugees, tells the story about, okay, these are my, let's say, my refugees, their names are this and this, they love to dance or whatever, that makes you really look at the refugee as a person, right? Not as a threat, not as someone who will, I don't know, steal your job, take your job, just people who need help. And I'm not sure if football is very popular here. I heard mostly baseball, but maybe you know Lewandowski. Some of you do. Okay, that's good. So there was also this controversial moment during one match when Lewandowski put this blue and yellow symbol on his arm to show support, and there were controversies, of course, because during football matches you shouldn't express any political preferences, but even though it's not usually accepted, that's what he did, and it also had a big impact on the Polish society and probably also globally, right? Because Lewandowski is probably like the most famous Polish person right now. And let's have a look at some more pictures from the media of how the refugees were shown. Again, this is a train station from our city, Wrocław. So you can see on this picture volunteers helping and some people sleeping. We can see a couple, right, hugging. So again, this picture probably to most of us is causing like these emotions of empathy, right? We see individuals. Again, we don't see like big groups of people. We see a story of a couple. We can think that maybe, I don't know, it's a couple, they wanted to get married, I don't know, but it makes us look at them, at the refugees, mostly as individuals. And that's something that I remember very much from my work as a refugee, that probably it's the first war in the history where so many animals are present, you know, because many people would take their dogs and their cats and their parrots sometimes and rabbits and many different animals with them, because of course the animals are the members of the family very often. So also on the train station, we had this veterinary hub for them. And again, in the media, you could see these kind of images that make us really look at individuals mostly with individual history, individual, I don't know, hobbies, preferences, and all these. And again, the pictures from our city, you can see the places that were prepared at the train station. So these kind of pictures give us this probably impression that it was more or less organized and under control. It's not true, it wasn't like this, but we see nice pictures with nice colors, nice probably environment, but nobody says that all these blankets were brought by volunteers, right? So again, especially the far-right media would show all this as a big success of the state. Okay, this picture again, quite emblematic, I would say. And once more, some examples of this propaganda concerning how effective Polish soldiers are helping, you can see, helping kids, helping with the luggage. So again, you can see like the Polish flag, and of course, it's a representation of the effectiveness of our state. Let's have a look at it from a different perspective, because the war and this crisis was also used a little bit for branding or communication strategy by the Polish brands. You can see Play, which is like T-Mobile or just phone company, right? So they already, they like during the first week already had some special offers from the refugees. For the refugees, they had stands also in the places where more refugees were coming. So, you know, it was on one hand a good way to help the people who were coming, because they had some free minutes to use to call people, their family back home in Ukraine, but at the same time, it was good if we look at it from the perspective of the image of the brand. And the same with Lidl, the supermarket, very, very fast. They started to use communication in Ukrainian, in their commercials, also in the shop. You can see information in Ukrainian, so it's also interesting how it changes, how it changed and it keeps changing. And there are not anymore, but there were special media issues published in Ukrainian in the most important Polish newspapers, so the Ukrainian refugees could read information in their mother tongue, which is, again, let's say, a good way to show solidarity and make them feel like home a little bit, right? Okay. Yeah, and again, two more examples. No, actually, it's one example of not only newspapers, but internet media having these versions in Ukrainian. You can see that this is a different alphabet now. So again, it was like a way to show solidarity, that these are the kind of refugees we want and we support. Okay, and one more example. This one I particularly like, even though, again, it's a propaganda, but this kind of propaganda I can accept somehow. So what you can see here is during Christmas in the Polish public TV, usually you listen to some Christmas songs, Christmas carols. And the last year, what was done, you can see, like here, these two women translating with the sign language, right? Which is nice generally to have this more inclusive approach. But this lady with this characteristic ornament on her head, she was Ukrainian and she was translating the Polish Christmas songs into Ukrainian. So it was again, you know, the way to show you are welcome, we can celebrate Christmas together, even though Ukrainian Christmas is not the same day when the Polish Christmas, because they are Orthodox and we are Catholics. It doesn't matter. It was a way to show and to try to produce this positive approach towards these refugees. So a conclusion from this part is, I think, quite clear that if it comes to this first narrative that Patricia was analyzing, the aim was to show the refugees not really as people, mostly as like a group of dangerous, we don't know who, strangers, yes, that's a very good word, that we should be afraid of, and they are not really welcome. And on the other hand, again, refugees, again, people who just can't stand at home, we can see this more individual approach when we see some concrete stories. People have names. They are not only like a bunch of strangers without really, you know, we don't really see their faces. We see only this big group of people, and on the other hand, we can see how different it is and how big the impact is of the image, right? Because here I can see some people I would like to have a coffee with, and these people make me feel afraid, even though the reason why they are in Poland is mostly the same.
I have one question for you. What kind of, do you have on Dominicana any stereotypes, particularly about Poland, or maybe in general Europeans? Do you have some stereotypes about Europeans? Don't be afraid to say it. Do you have some?
As a Dominican?
Yes.
In Europe?
Usually, unfortunately, it's more towards French, Italians, but we usually have this prejudice towards all Europeans is the lack of hygiene.
Oh.
Due to like very cold temperatures, we tend to just assume they have very bad hygiene or very bad way of living.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Okay, thank you.
There's also two main stereotypes when it comes to how we see them. Which are one as viewed as a country and then as people. When it comes to the country, we always see, oh, Europe is just like so much more advanced, it's better, more tranquil. But when it comes to the people, thanks to the fact that we pretty much only see people on vacation or just being tourists, it is very you could say, light-headed person. Like they don't really care about nothing. They're just like.
They just want to chill and have their vacations.
And also, there's this. When you go to the parts of the country that are normally where the tourists go, for example, Samana and other mostly beachy areas, is that they don't really adapt to what's the cultural norm there. For example, you will see a lot of people just walking with their tits out or just like acting like you would in a European beach or in Europe in general, even though they have changing the complete setting. They just don't adapt to it.
That's very important and crucial, actually, what you said, because, you know, we build the process of building stereotypes about other nations, other groups of people based on their skin color or religion or something else, I don't know, because they wear glasses, for example. You can have a lot of levels of building stereotypes concerning like different groups of people and how the process looks like. Of course, some information we are getting from media, because how the media is showing us the rest of the world, which we don't really know, which is far away from us. For example, we don't have like very detailed information about Dominican Republic because this is very far from us. The same, I mean, you probably don't have detailed information about Poland because we are very far from each other. Of course, the closer we are, the more we know about each other, but at the same time, if we talk about stereotypes about nations which we don't really know, and probably some of people, they don't even know where the country is on the map, it's much more easier to build the stereotypical way of thinking, because someone will tell you, I've met once Polish girl and she was so unfriendly. And this is how you build stereotypes. Then you will see, for example, in media that, okay, we can see that in Poland they have a crisis situation because the war is going on very close to Polish border, and probably you can get some information. I had this situation actually last time in US when the guy asked me why you invaded, he meant Poland, why you invaded Ukraine. And I was like, what? It's not true. I mean, from where you have this kind of information? And he said, I saw it in Fox News. So I asked this question because I think it's important in the context of intercultural communication, but in general in human communication, to be aware how many fake newses we are getting every day, especially in social media, and also how easy it is to judge another nation, another group of people if we don't know them, and also how easy it is to say, okay, they behave in a different way, so they are different, they are strangers, we won't accept them. So it's important to be open for otherness in general. It doesn't really matter what doesn't mean to be other, because you can be other on many different levels. That's why I wrote here that cultural myths, because we can say cultural stereotypes, but we can say also cultural myths are very powerful. And of course, it's much more easier to use stereotypes because this is some kind of a shortcut of thinking about the world, which is impossible to know in general and also in detailed way. But those cultural stereotypes, cultural myths are very, very dangerous for us and for other people. And they are created on the basis of images. They are created on the basis of language. Of course, probably you have the same in your country, that there are like specific words which wasn't used before, but they were created because of some situation which happened, or words which are describing like particular group of people in a negative way, for example. It's happening all over the world. It's not a matter of Poland or Dominican Republic or any other country. This is like human thing to do this, unfortunately. As I said at the beginning, we live in a world of images. That's why those images, they are very important, and it's also very important to be aware that not everything what we see is true. Especially now when we talk about AI, artificial intelligence, which is on the basis which is so easy to create like very, very strong message, and also it's easy to create an image which we will accept as a truth. For example, probably you saw this image of Trump, Donald Trump, arrested, created. This image was created by AI. At the first look, you don't even, expect that it's a fake. So that's why, as I said, images are very important. And also, we can ask ourselves a question: are we still dealing with uncontrollable strangeness in the area of Global Village? Because we for sure this story about Global Village. It's not only the theory; it's a fact. So we are sharing information, we are sharing behaviors, we are sharing pop culture, but at the same time, in this global village where we share everything, and we can talk, for example, me being in Poland, I can talk with you, for example, being on Dominican Republic, or I can talk with someone in Australia in a second, and I can share everything what I want, what kind of content I will manage to do, I can share it. And still, we share a lot common things, but at the same time, we are still afraid of strangeness, of otherness. And of course, at some point, media, traditional media, and also social media are responsible for that. Also we, because it's much more easy to, to share and to say, okay, oh, wow, that's interesting, I will share it. So we do it immediately. So one more important, highly important thing, it should be written here, but it's not. How photos fuel the spread of fake news. It's very important to understand that images lend emotion and legitimacy to stories even when they are not true, and especially now, when we know how easy access we have to artificial intelligence, to ChatGPT, it's highly important to remember about this, because it's very easy to spread fake news. Because sometimes we don't even think if it's not true or true. Especially in the time for us, especially in Europe, and especially for us Polish people, it's highly important to understand this, because we are facing war on our borders, and I think it's important to emphasize this. This is not only the war between Russia and Ukraine. This is the war between liberal, open world and very totalitarian way of thinking. So that is why it's important to think before you share, analyze before you share something, some content, some images, some text, some video. It doesn't matter what kind of content it will be. It's important to analyze it even shortly before you will share it. Because what we could observe, and what we observe actually till now, a lot of fake news is about the war situation in Poland. Because the Russian propaganda is, of course, working. And it's not only in Poland, but also in general in the world. That's why we wanted to also add this. Maybe we will skip the video because because we don't have enough time. But as I said, first check, share after. You know that even traditional media like CNN, The Times, or The New Yorker, and so on, media which are highly appreciated by media professionals, even they sometimes do mistakes, and even they are not always aware, or are is it possible for them to check what they are, what kind of content they are sharing. So even this kind of media. So if they are in the situation where this can happen. So what I mean by this, sharing fake news is, we are like, you know, small, in this situation, small, like, you know, random people who don't have this kind of possibilities to check the fake news, but still I think it's important to remember about it. Don't share before you check the source. And thank you for your attention. Dziękujemy za uwagę.
Gracias por su atención. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
Questions, right?
Si tiene alguna otra pregunta, puede levantar la mano, le llevamos el micrófono.
Can be in Spanish.
Puede ser en español, no tiene que ser en inglés. Bueno. Ah. Bueno, está bien, después.
Okay, just a small question about misinformation and the spread of information in times of, let's say, events like wars and conflicts. Do you agree, or do you have an opinion that misinformation and the spread of fake news plays a big and important role in the involvement or the development of a conflict or a war?
Of course. I mean, it's highly important in this context, and also it's highly important in the context of building the image of governments. Because we know that politics is a play. It's a Game of Thrones. I don't know if you saw the series. And of course, everything is available and everything is accepted. So if you have a tool to create like a successful propaganda to win the elections, or to build an image of your country as a victim, not an invader, of course, it's very important.
Hi.
Hi.
No, yo hablo inglés, yeah. First of all, I have to address that speaking in front of a lot of people is not my thing, so if I gag at some point.
Ours too, don't worry.
Okay. It's not a question. I wanted to state that this kind of investigations, this kind of, I don't know if I can say reunions? This kind of conferences are important because they encourage us to, you know, to open our minds, to open our eyes and see and realize that when we're making some comments about foreign people, sometimes we disrespect them and we don't even realize it. We don't even notice that because we live in a society that teaches us to speak in a way, but in some other way we're offending them, we're being disrespectful to them without even realizing it. So I also wanted to say that the situation from Poland is not that far from ours because we live in an island. We share this land with aliens in this case. And I honestly hate, I don't want to say it like that because hate is a strong feeling, but I hate when people make comments, make negative comments about alien people without any reason at all, because if they see themselves in that situation to run from their country and come here, it's just to work just because I have seen it myself. is to work to live like normal people because they cannot have, you know, that privilege in their own country. So I think it's very important to have this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment because, as I said at the beginning, it's a universal topic. So thank you very much.
Yes, and if I may, actually, of course, we didn't mention that, but of course, after a year, over a year that the war started, of course, there are clashes in Poland. People are saying, oh, these Ukrainians, you know, like too many there. Maybe this war, yeah, there is, and also because of this propaganda from Russia, oh, maybe this war is not that terrible. You know, people question many things, and it's not like everyone opened their doors for the refugees. So that's why we also chose this topic, because we thought that, of course, we are talking about like cultures that are very far away from here, but in the end, as you said, that's universal and that's the same as here and in many, many different places in the world. And also, probably over the world is the same story that we consume this media content. I don't know how many hours per day. In my case, probably 6-7 hours per day. Sometimes, you know, scrolling, reading. So this impact is really, really huge. And in the end, that's how we learned about the word. So it's high time we started to use it maybe in a more aware way and more controlled way, just then click. I like it, I don't like it, and that's it. So thank you so much for this comment.
Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Alexandra. Definitely, this is a very it's a very near to us, this topic, because we're an island and we're facing the same problems that you do. And gracias a ustedes por estar aquí hoy, y verdaderamente nos vamos con una reflexión, ¿no? Y qué bonita reflexión en un día tan particular como hoy. Le damos otro aplauso a las profesoras Patricia y Alexandra. Y qué bueno ver que aprender también de otros países, de cómo ellos han lidiado también con esa situación, de cómo se han dado cuenta, de cómo la prensa también puede manipular una narrativa u otra dependiendo de sus propios intereses políticos, ¿no? Entonces, nada, ya sabemos que nuestra prensa también responde así muchas veces, y no seamos más de lo mismo. Tratemos de ver siempre desde el corazón, desde la humanidad, con objetividad, para crear entonces las historias que valen la pena contar. Muchas gracias y nos vemos en otro momento.
And of course, you are welcome to come to Poland.